This is the DMZ America podcast. What's that smell, you ask? Well, with Ted, it's the burning Canada. What's that smell like, Ted?
It doesn't smell good. It's acrid. It's kind of like it's not really like living like like when you spend too much time by too close to the campfire. It's not like that. It's
Oh,
it's more like that combined. It's closer to this. After a house is burned down and you walk by that, it's more like that. It's like
oh,
charcoaly and like gross because people think about you think about wildfires in Canada, you're just thinking about like trees and like like leaves and limbs, wood, healthy stuff burning. And that's not good for you because unlike smoking, when you smoke, you're only smoking for say a few minutes at a time, but this is 24/7 until it's gone, right? So this would be like smoking like 17 packs of cigarettes in one
I
day.
bet it is. I mean,
I
now
bet
you
it
got
is too.
during the course of this podcast, you've been getting alerts. Have you gotten any recent in the last few minutes or
No, there's just the latest is that the AQI is currently 324.
Jesus Christ? That's
Um,
amazing.
so
Well, speaking of smoking,
right.
more and more places are legalizing marijuana, and I just, and it's making me crazy. I'm going to be totally honest here and say I don't like the stuff. I never liked it. I had friends in high school and college who loved it. I never was one of them. I always felt kind of stupid and paranoid, and it wasn't a good buzz for me. I know Ted feels the same way. But because of the rush to get those sweet, sweet, sweet tax dollars out of it, there's a rush across the country to legalize it. There was a story recently about a woman. She had sued her neighbor.
Mhm.
This is in Washington area,
Washington, it
and
was in the district. It was in DC.
was in the district. Okay, so and pot is legal there, and you walk around. I mean, pot was legalized when I was living in Chicago. And it's a horrible, terrible smell. You think one of the things they could do is breathe that smell out of it, but apparently they won't, or can't, or refuse. Apparently maybe they like it, but marijuana use is way on the, and so her neighbor was smoking weed and you could smell it. The stuff stinks, folks. It just permeates everything. And it's a horrible, wretched smell. I mean, and this, when they call it skunk, when the marijuana kind of changed and got that smell. So she sued her neighbor and the courts agreed, said, yeah, the neighbor can't do it anymore, even though it's a legal thing. The smoke is so noxious and so powerful that she was permeating her living space and was infringing on her lifestyle. And so the neighbor now, I guess, has to go out on their balcony or whatever and smoke it there. Um, I, I have so many thoughts on this, and they seem so small and petty, Ted. I have to admit, they
Oh,
really
let's
do.
hear all of them. Maybe they'll add up to one real thought.
Well, you're walking around Chicago, and all of a sudden, you can't go more than 2 blocks without smelling that shit. And then you go, oh, wow, God, where's that coming from? And you look around, it's coming, I'd say 90% of the time walking around Chicago, it's coming from a car.
Mm.
And my number one objection to legalizing this stuff is that we don't know enough about it. And there is no mean, if your blood alcohol is 0.08, you're drunk. You cannot drive a car. You are legally drunk.
And that can be ascertained.
Yes, by you blowing into the thing, or they take a blood test. Marijuana, I mean, can you have 2 hits of weed now, and drive a car? I have no earthly idea. Neither does anybody else. The third part of it is because I've mentioned the breeding, and that's an important point here, is that it has gotten so strong. I was visiting my cousin down in New Orleans recently, and he works in rehab. And you know what the 3 rehab things are, Ted, that they have to, that they're treating? Oxycodone, fentanyl, and weed. Weed has gotten so strong and so powerful that they consider it now a narcotic.
So they
Although
consider it. Are you saying they consider it officially physically addictive now?
yes,
That
yeah.
that was not true in the past, right?
No, when I was a kid in high
It was
school,
considered psychologically addictive.
yeah, there were some kids, but for the most part, I mean, you could split a joint with a friend, and you'd get a buzz, but you wouldn't be,
Right, 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 right.
um, I think this is a terrible trend. I'm glad this woman won her case. I think she's absolutely right. Um, my wife and I went to looking at condos in Chicago one time, and obviously someone on that floor was smoking weed, and you could smell it. It gets everywhere. Our neighbor in our apartment in Chicago next door was smoking weed, and it was so bad. The smell was so bad it woke us up.
Mhm.
My first thought was, Janine, not again. No, she doesn't smoke weed.
Well, like, I mean, look, this to me, in terms of this woman lives in an apartment, right? And so, she was basically, it's the issue. The fact that it's marijuana is merely incidental. I mean, I think the issues at
Okay.
stake are the fact that it's smoking taking place in a building. The same issue would be true if the person were smoking tobacco. Both of them generate toxins in the air. Then neighbors inhale them involuntarily, and people have a right, according to this judge, and I agree with her, not to be disturbed or have their air impugned inside their place of residence. So it disrupts the full use and enjoyment of your land, in the parlance of English common law. And I think that's correct. And I think, I mean, that's why, for example, in New York City, there's almost no buildings that are not non-smoking anymore, whether they're co-ops, condos, or rental buildings like where I live. I'm not allowed to smoke in my apartment, and that's because the smoke travels through the walls. It goes out the window and up the air shaft into the windows of my upstairs neighbors, and so it's a good thing. And I know, because I've lived in buildings back in the 80s and 90s where they didn't have rules like that, or if they had them, they weren't enforced. And it was gross. You're like in your own apartment, non-smoker, never smoked a cigarette in my life. And then I smell like cigarette smoke and my room smells like cigarette smoke. Like, why should I have to deal with that? Not to mention it's a fire hazard. Smokers fall asleep in bed all the time and burn their place up. And then they burn up their own house. That's one thing, but they could burn down your whole building. I mean, I do have some sympathy for the libertarian side of this, which says, people, if it's a legal product, people should be able to smoke it. But there's lots of legal products that you're not allowed to use in your home. For example, you can't put your car inside your house and run it and then generate carbon monoxide fumes that go into the building and disturb your neighbors, even though a car is a legal product. So it's a public nuisance. And if you want to not be bothered, move out to the countryside, live on your own, and you're not going to have to worry about it.
Okay. Well, no, I mean, I also would mention that you do have respiratory issues, and that having a smoker next door must have been misery for you.
It was. Yeah. No, I mean, look, I lived with two chain smoking roommates after college. And to this day, I think one day I might die of lung cancer because of those two guys.
Bastards.
And I bet if they're listening, well, there's only one left. If the one who, let's call him Dan because his name was Dan. Dan, if you're listening, I know you're going to say I'm a pussy, but that's too bad because I am. My lungs are definitely very pussified.
Scarred because
my lungs are as wimpy as Ron DeSantis's voice.
Now, if you're sitting there and all of a sudden you hear, and it sounds like a flamethrower drone, it's not. Just keep sitting where you are.
Just pretend. Just ignore it.
Just ignore it. Just ignore it. Trust us on this. Real quick, I did want to get your take. Apple has just premiered for the price, the low price of $3,500. Their VR.
In other words, the price of the next iPhone.
Yeah, no, you're not kidding either. Holy crap. But it's their VR AR viewer. It's this thing you wear. And the augmented reality aspect of it is awesome. It looks like, I mean, what's really weird to me, Ted, is this thing is, from what we've heard initially, is that it's very buggy already. They've got a ton of work to do on making it, a little more seamless. But here's where, this is where we're going, right? I mean, I really believe do you remember when Google had Google Glass?
Oh, yeah.
And I really I tried it out. My optometrist actually was one of the test people selling it. He sold some. They were $5,000 or something. It was expensive, but and useless. Frankly, it really looked like DOS was the program. It was horrible. It was not sleek or good looking. but eventually, and I mean eventually, within the next 5 to 7 years, we're going to have this available. We're going to wear them as glasses or sunglasses, and it's going to be awesome for guys like me because I don't remember anybody's name. So I'm going to be at a party and someone walks up to me and
Yeah,
it's
but
going
if
to
it's
be,
powered by AI, it's going to give you the wrong name.
that's right. If it's Chat GPT, it's going to be, this is Ted Rall. He went to Uganda and married a Ugandan woman. He's
Remember
now
you had that feud with him?
yes,
He
exactly.
stole your Pulitzer?
Bastard. Anyway, yeah, I mean, but this is the future. This is what's coming. And I know this sounds disconnected, but stay with me, Ted, and listeners. We're looking at a perpetual unemployment rate in this country as we automate more and more functions of upwards of 30% of people having nothing to do. Mm-hmm. Now, what do you do if you're the government? I think you can set up a system where they've already got a treadmill, which makes it feel like you're running, you're jumping, all this stuff. Couple that with VR, couple that with 3D printing of food. So let's say you're hungry for, I don't know, a meatball. It'll print out a meatball. It has substance. It can do this. All of this is to say, we're going to get to the point where you will never leave your apartment, ever.
Well, today that sounds like a good idea.
Well, yeah, you'll probably be able to breathe. But my point is that keep your eye on stuff like this. Technology like this is going to creep up on you. And
it's going to cause this is going to cause major disruption. And look, I would like
to think, how so?
Well, like you said, because of the unemployment, the higher unemployment that's going to cause. And I think that, I would like to think that a forward-thinking society would say that it would be, yeah, exactly. It would be a great idea to avoid the political instability that would occur by having a massive, huge India-style underclass. But from everything I've seen about American society, that's not going to happen at all. All that's going to happen is no one's going to give a shit. These people are going to be eating out of the garbage. It will be a massive India-style underclass, and the rich and the almost rich will insulate themselves in gated communities, protect themselves with fleets of flamethrower drones, and keep the rest of us at bay.
Why hasn't there been a revolution in India? Why has there not been an uprising? Because, I mean, the underclass is not treated well. My understanding is, the foodstuffs are provided, bare bone medical is provided. I mean, is that really nominal housing is provided. But how is there not a revolution there? I don't
know. And it's interesting because the cult, obviously it was partitioned from Pakistan, and basically, politically, historically, and in terms of even climate, it's very similar. But Pakistan has had numerous uprisings and revolutions, whereas India has not. And for me, I think the most likely explanation is religious. Hindus Hinduism is a religion that's kind of teaches passivity and acceptance of your circumstances, whereas Islam is not. It's a religion that has violence at its very core from the beginning, and I don't mean that in the sort of Islamophobic thing, but I mean in its origins. I mean, it was Mesopotamian raiders, desert raiders, who were the first Muslims, and these were people who went into other places and stole their shit and killed people to get what they wanted. I think Hinduism teaches people that like they're going to be reincarnated, that this too shall pass, and so people have a tendency not to rise up. Now that said, it's not like India has no history of uprisings. I mean, there was the Sepoy mutiny in the 1860s. There was, of course, the independence struggle against the Brits. There was a violent partition between India in the late 40s. So, I mean, I guess the whole thing is maybe you just have to wait, and there will be one. As a Marxist, I despair of seeing a nice, like, bloody class-based revolution like the old days, because it's been a long time since we've had one of those.
No kidding. And I'm thinking the United States, if you have 30%, okay, I mean, we all get all the weed we want. We have hot and cold running Bud Light in our apartments. We can have 3D printed anything we want. We can, with virtual reality, we can literally have any kind of sex with anyone we want. I'm thinking this is, I mean, I really have always kind of dismissed dystopian, although 1984 was friggin' brilliant. But the rest of the dystopia, constructs never really resonated with me. But this is, I mean, we're
This is
not
Brave New
far.
World. It's Soma.
Yeah, we're not far removed from this. So, keep your
No,
eyes on that, folks. Just saying.
no. Look, I've always thought like between dystopian and utopian visions, the dystopian ones have a far better success record than the utopian ones.
Yeah, you're probably, shit, you're probably right. Oh, well, on that note, Ted, where can we, uh, on
You
that
can
note, Ted, why are you still haven't suffocated to death because of the smog?
if you can squint through the smog, you can find me maybe at raw.com. You can go to whowhatwhy.org, sputniknews.com. And you can go to my daily Monday through Friday radio show on Sputnik, 10 a.m. until 12 noon. It's called The Final Countdown.
That's
Probably
Eastern time.
Eastern, best American time, in other words, the best way, patriot time, not communist time like they have in the Rockies. And I would recommend go to Rumble is probably the best way to do it because it doesn't matter if it's live or not. You can look at the most recent one on Rumble. And Scott,
and he's, by the way, I mean, really, it's if do yourself a favor and listen to the show because it's excellent. And your co-host Manila Chan is real. You guys are good together. You really are.
thank you. And Scott is a frequent guest and friend of the show, so that's appreciated too.
So listen in. So if you want to see my work, go ahead to go to gocomics.com/Scott Stantis or gocomics.com/Prickly City and see my comic strip. You can see some of my work at the chicagotribune.com/opinion. You can go to Dallas News for the Dallas Morning News and go to their opinion section and see my work there. And you can go to Center Clip, where Ted and I both participate in giving short podcasts. They're like 30 seconds to 5 minutes long. And it's a really neat next thing. So do yourself a favor, Center Clip. It's a free app, and I think you're going to they're doing some really neat stuff. So do yourself a favor there as well. Until next time, Ted, thanks, man. Just like
Indeed.
I said, I've said this to you in text. I said, no, it's just it's a short drive down here, and we are we just have MAGA stupidity. We don't have the
that's all right. That's we have our own stupidities here. Where I don't know if you heard that our glorious mayor installed 4 vending machines for free to distribute free crack pipes to crack addicts.
Wait, I thought it was the stuff that helped with if someone overdosed on fentanyl.
Oh, Narcan. Yeah, that's in there too. But
wait,
crack
what?
pipes also. Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know we were just about to say goodbye, but I'm deeply confused. Why crack pipes don't transmit disease or anything? Why would you give those out?
Well, apparently the normal crack pipes, the cheapy ones, crack and hurt people while they're smoking them. So the Mayor Adams has decided that every crackhead should have a high quality crack smoking experience, not a cheap, shitty one with broken glass in your lips. There's even lip balm in there too. I shit you not. So Hunter Biden, I know you're listening to the DMZ America podcast. So, get your ass up here. They're refilling those things in Brooklyn.
Wow, I had no idea. Okay, well, great. I'm going to pop up there and get my free crack pipe. That'd be fun.
Yeah, should. Don't settle for paying for cheap pay crack pipes and you get high quality free ones.
And on that note, we'll see you next time. Keep your eyes open for the flamethrower drones in your life. And we love you, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.